Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap. Minds the gap.
Hello everyone, my name is Semra Yalçın. I work for the British Council Turkey office, and I've been working for the British Council for 14 years, and I'm dedicated to education, especially promoting the UK education in Turkey. Today we have Alexa Haslam from University of Birmingham. Alexa, could you please introduce yourself to our audience briefly?
Merhaba, ben Alexa Haslam. I work at the University of Birmingham, as Semra has mentioned. I work in international student recruitment, and I'm responsible for covering Turkey. So I've been coming to Turkey for around 5 years now, working with the students here, and it's lovely coming here to talk to students. We have a number of Turkish students on campus studying all the way through from foundation, undergraduate to postgraduate, and they are lovely to be on campus. Very nice students. They thoroughly enjoy their time at the university, and so I hope you all have plenty of questions for us today about studying in the UK.
Thank you, Alexa. Please, we'll have around 40-45 minutes session today, and if you have any questions about studying in the UK and also visa related questions, please write them, ask them through Facebook. UK visas related questions will be answered later on our website. Today we'll talk about UCAS application process, and then what universities are looking for in students, first week of university education and student life in the UK. Let's start. Before talking about UCAS application process, I want to give you some information about why you can choose, UK education. First of all, it will increase your knowledge, study and learn from. You'll have a chance to study and learn from experts in their fields, and you can get your first true taste of independence and freedom, build self-confidence, experience all aspects of student life, meet new people, gain an international recognized qualification, develop essential skills that you will need in your study, and increase your earning potential, which means it will open doors for your future for new jobs. Before making your applications, you need to consider a few things. These are, first of all, you have to choose a subject. You have to focus on a subject that you want to choose. You can, you need to, decide what sort of career path you will have, and then you can concentrate on the subject area. Where do you want to study? That's another important question, I think. Do you want to study in a rural city or a big city? So it will definitely change your experience and also cost of your study. What extracurricular activities do institutions have? Depending on your interest, you can, choose different type of universities. How much it will cost? That's another important question. You need to make sure that you have the money to cover all your expenses in the UK. UCAS application, there are some key dates for UCAS application. First of all, application is entirely online. You have a maximum of 5 choices, just not for the ones who are applying until the end of 30th of June. But in general, let's say if you are planning to study year after next academic year, you have to plan yourself in advance, which means if you are applying for medicine, dentistry, or veterinary science, or if you want to study at Cambridge or Oxford, you have to apply until the 15th of October. Other than that, all applications are made until 15th of January. If you miss that deadline, which now the case for some of the students, you can still apply until the 30th of June. And after the 30th of June, if you haven't made any applications, you can still apply during the clearing period. We'll come on to that later. And in terms of number of choices for medicine, veterinary, you have only 4 choices. So think carefully. And the application fee is £13 only for one choice. If it's more than one choice, then you pay £24. And the deadline, as mentioned, if you want to study in the next this academic career, the deadline is 30th of June. This is quite important here. So if you miss the 30th of June, you need to you can still apply during the clearing period. Alexa, maybe about the clearing period, you can tell how it works.
Okay, so the clearing period is slightly different for international students than it is for UK students. So for international students, international clearing starts around the 5th of July each year, and it continues all the way through until technically the end of September, but in real terms around the time of the A-level results release date, which this year is the 16th of August. And when the 16th of August comes round, that's when it becomes very busy, because UK students will then start applying through clearing as well. Now, the number of places available depends on the university, so not every single university goes into clearing, but many do go into national clearing, and the range of places that they have depends on what availability they have on the courses remaining. So if you're applying for a very busy programme such as business, I would suggest not leaving it until clearing.
That's a good tip. Thank you, Alexa. So to make your application, you need to go online on UCAS website, www.ucas.com. And then you have to complete number of sections. These are personal details, additional information, choices, your subject choices, education, employment, and personal statements. You need to focus on the subject area. You shouldn't be choosing economics and, let's say, studying English at the same time. So you need to be focused. We'll come on to that in the personal statement section. In the meantime, we have to remind the applicants who have made their applications throughout the year. You have only one day to accept your offers. Decide and accept one of the offers until tomorrow, and reject the others if you are not thinking, to accept. Otherwise, universities will reject all of the offers they made from tomorrow. So don't forget to
This is for students that have received offers from all of their university choices at this point.
Few things to remind. There are some common errors when students enter their details. First of all, some Turkish students do that. Fail to check entry requirements. Make sure that what universities want. And ask yourself, if you have the required scores, and make sure that if you need to take any admission tests. Qualification, some students forget to enter their qualifications correctly, so make sure that you have everything on the system, you enter everything on the system. Inappropriate email addresses, if you missed one dot in the email, then universities will not be able to get in touch with you. Tick some boxes correctly. If you need special needs or disability, or if you've been in care, you have to state that. Because the assessment is different, right?
Mm-hmm. It's so that the universities can offer support to you when you're studying at the university. So issues such as disability, although you need to declare them on the form, they're not considered alongside your application. So when we make the decision on your application, it's on your academics only. And only after we've decided to make an offer will we then look at any disability issues to see where we can provide support.
If you've made your application already and you have the acceptances offers from the universities, you should have firm choice and then insurance choice. So decide what to which one you want to accept. Firm choice, you may not have the qualifications in time. Or you might have been asked for additional documents, so make sure that you submit those documents on time.
Mm-hmm.
And then as mentioned earlier, decline all the remaining offers. Your personal statement is really crucial. It is sort of one of the key elements in your application, and your chance to sell yourself, basically. It needs to be accurate and no grammar mistakes at all. So you have only 4,000 characters, which means 47 lines in your personal statement. You have to be very economic in terms of expressing yourself, and you have to focus on the subject that you want to study. Just earlier we mentioned that not to jump around doing this and that at the same time, because there's only one personal statement that you can write. So no spelling mistakes, as again mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Did you want me to add a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
So the kinds of things that we're looking for from the personal statement, it does vary a little bit depending on the subject that you're applying for, but generally universities will be looking for your interest in the subject area. And we're a little bit different to American universities, for example. We are much more focused on why you want to do that particular subject, how you came to that conclusion, so what subjects you studied at school that sparked your interest, and perhaps a little bit about what you want to do as a future career. Now, we appreciate that your decisions as to what you want to do for a career may very well change during your university degree, but we're looking for some kind of focus in that area. We're also interested a little in your hobbies or your leisure activities, but that should be about 20% maximum of your personal statement. So if you're very good at sports, fantastic, put that in, but bear in mind we're much more interested in why you chose to study geography, for example, or why you're applying to engineering and what you want to do in the future. Did you want me to say anything more?
I can just mention a few things.
Sure.
Strong opening paragraph is quite crucial, and be honest, be yourself. Draft, redraft, and share it with the people that you trust, and then get their advice, and then finalize. Don't leave it to the last night. It will not happen. It will not happen. You need to allocate some time. Of course, there is no perfect statement, so make sure that you do your best. Don't copy from internet. This is quite important, because UK institutions have a system to actually go through all these personal statements and match. If they capture anything, you'll be in trouble. So these are the areas that I want to cover about UCAS and applications. And now let's focus on what universities are looking for in students. Alexa, maybe you can talk about that subject?
Okay, sure. So probably one of the most important things on your application will be your personal statement, because it is your opportunity to tell the university about yourself and why you're interested in the course. We are looking for you to be yourself, so we're not looking for it to sound as though you're in business or you're 30 years old or something. We expect it to sound like somebody who's currently studying in school and has a genuine interest in that subject area. Make sure you tell us about your personal skills for the course, so your motivation to study, your commitment to the subject area, any research skills that you have, your personal learning skills. Now, those may be a little bit different depending on the course that you're applying for. So, for example, if you're applying to medicine, you're going to need to tell us about things like team working and leadership. If you're applying to something like engineering, you may have done perhaps a research project at school or some laboratory work that you want to tell us about. Tell us about your time management skills. So are you good at sticking to deadlines? Universities want to know that you will make a good student and that you will enjoy the course, but also that you will be successful on the programme as well. I just wanted to say as well, some courses will also require work experience. So the ones that spring to mind are things like medicine, veterinary science, dentistry and physiotherapy. And if those programmes do require work experience, you must not only have completed it before you apply, but also make sure that you reference the skills that you gained from that work experience in your personal statement. So we're not looking for a long list of what you did during your work experience. We want to know what you gained from that work experience. What else do I say? So if you're applying for more than one subject area, although we would strongly advise that you don't apply for very different subject areas, but if you are applying for reasonably different subject areas, you may need to focus a little bit more on your personal skills rather than your specific interest or knowledge of that subject area, because you're going to need to sell yourself as a person and as a potentially good student. Make sure you don't mention in your personal statement the university you're applying to, because bear in mind your personal statement will be seen by probably 5 different universities. So you don't specifically want to talk to just one university and the others will feel a little bit left out. Make sure you supply your predicted grades. So quite often students do forget to supply their predicted grades. They're very important for UK universities. Almost certainly, if you don't supply them, then we wouldn't be able to make an offer. Now, I work at the University of Birmingham, and I know that quite often where students miss them out, we do contact students or we do contact the school and ask for those predicted grades. But if you're applying for a course that's in very high demand, it may well be that they actually just reject if you don't supply those predicted grades. So, as Semra mentioned, please make sure that you do submit everything on your application form in full. And English language I wanted to mention as well. Students do quite often ask me whether they need to have their IELTS by the time they submit their application. If you have IELTS, if it is a good score, if it reaches the requirements for the programme, by all means submit your test results, your test certificate number on your application form. But actually at the point of application you do not need to have your English results at that point. We know that you're applying very early in the year. We know that you are continuing to study English and your English level will be changing throughout that year, so it isn't necessary at the point of application. And also make sure that you include a reference from your school. Now, if you are applying to something like law, for example, a relevant subject teacher to approach for that would be something like English or history, because they can comment on your essay writing abilities and perhaps your ability to reference a lot of material. Maybe you've actually studied in English at school, so they can talk about your ability to analyse a lot of material quite quickly in English and then write an essay about that. So that would be very, very relevant teacher to approach. For something like medicine or biological sciences, again, your biology or your chemistry teacher, somebody in science, for example, would be able to comment on the skills appropriate for that undergraduate degree.
Good. Maybe just here, just to say, undergraduate study takes 3 years in the UK, different to Turkey, and some Turkish students are offered foundation programs to fill in the gap that they have because of the education system differences between the education systems. So undergraduate study takes 3 years in the UK, and some students from Turkey are eligible to actually get a direct entry. Bear in this mind as well. It's quite important when it comes to financial arrangements. So 1 year is in pocket, so you don't need to worry about it. Let's move on to the next question or topic. First week of university education. Could you please tell us?
Okay, sure.
So
I'll tell you a little bit. So perhaps from the University of Birmingham point of view, but this will apply to almost all universities in the UK. So before the first week of teaching, we like our students to arrive 1 week earlier. And usually that weekend beforehand there will be a number of activities. So there might be airport transfers put on by the university to collect you and take you to your halls of residence. That first week before teaching is usually called something like Welcome Week or Orientation or Induction. It's designed as an introduction to the university so that you get your bearings and you understand the university systems and do all of the administrative work before you start teaching. So the first things that you will almost certainly do during that week, you will register on your programme, you will collect your biometric residence permit, which is the second part of your visa, and universities will usually help with this. You will settle into your accommodation, you'll register on your modules, you'll find out a little bit about the subject you're going to be studying, and you will almost certainly visit the classrooms and the department where you're going to be studying. So for example, if you're studying engineering or a science subject, you'll be shown the laboratories, you may have an introduction to working in the lab, the protocols, safety, all of these types of things. If you're if you're studying something like law, you may get an introduction to the law library, the student society, so the law society, and the school will almost certainly talk to you a little bit about what to expect on the programme, and a little bit about the teaching and learning on the programme, because teaching methods are a little bit different in the UK to perhaps what you may be used to on your previous programmes. You will also get your timetable of study. So if you have options in your first year, you'll need to choose your option modules, and that will dictate your timetable. You will get to meet your course tutors, so you'll find out who's teaching you. There may be some social events within the department. So for example, the medicine programme, it's very, very intensive. What they do is they introduce you to students on the higher levels of the programme. So that's a very interesting welcome week and induction, particularly for us in Birmingham. We have the students that are on the higher levels of study, on years 3, 4 and 5, and they come and teach the new students basic first aid. Now that's very good because that's improving their teaching skills, but also getting them to meet the new students. And then those older students will mentor the younger students. So you have somebody to approach. If you maybe don't want to go and talk to your lecturer, you might want to talk to another student more informally. And actually talking to a student that's maybe on the 2nd or 3rd year of the programme is a really good opportunity just to chat informally about how they found the programme in the first year and to help you settle in. Then we also have more general university induction. So you will be introduced to the student union, which at Birmingham it's called the Guild of Students. It's exactly the same thing as a student union. You will be invited to join the union. Now that's where you get your student union card, and that is where you get all of the student discounts available in the UK. You just need to present your student union card. So you can get access to things like discounted travel. I found the other day discounted food in restaurants very close to the campus. So that's definitely a very valuable card to have. You'll be introduced to the Careers and Guidance Service. So students may be allowed to work part-time during their study. So if your visa allows it, you're allowed to work up to 20 hours per week during term time. The university may have some preference as to how many hours you work, and Birmingham, we prefer you to work 16 hours.
That's interesting.
Maximum, yes, because we want you to pass your programme. We also introduce you to things like the counselling services. So at the university we have lots of guidance for students to help you settle in. And we also have what we call the chaplaincy, so those are the religious services. So if you're interested in attending religious services, we support a number of different faiths and religions at the university, and all universities are very similar in that respect. Student societies also will, certainly at Birmingham, I'm positive other universities will do exactly the same. They have a student society fair in the first week, so it's a little bit like an education exhibition. So if you came around to talk to universities in Turkey and you were shopping for universities, you can do the same for student societies when you arrive in the UK. And we have some very serious societies, so things like BioSoc, for example, which is for our biological sciences students, the Law Society, the Medical Society, and then we also have ones that will help you with your study skills, so things like we call it the Toastmaster Society, and that helps you to make public speeches, which is a very good skill to have. Yeah. We have the Debating Society.
That's really good. That's what you need basically when you study in the UK, because the system is totally different from Turkey, more inspiring, more independent.
Yes.
You will have a lot of time by yourself to, you know, improve your skills. And you need supports, of course, and universities, you know, give that support to you. You'll be in a different country, speaking, you know, English all the time, no Turkish. So you'll be maybe, you know, just very intensive education system. You'll be reading a lot.
Yes.
That's another thing, actually. Very different from the Turkish education system. No much lectures in the classes. You have to, you know, do some, you know, studies in the library with your groups or with your friends, students' friends, and join some, you know, seminars. So the universities give all the support to you to make sure that you can, you know, adopt yourself to the, you know, student life, basically.
We do also like students to know that they can have a little bit of fun as well. So, so student societies, apart from the more serious ones, we have societies such as the Turkish Student Society, and many universities will have those. And actually, those student societies quite often link up with other universities. So if you are studying at the University of Birmingham, for example, there are 5 universities around the city of Birmingham, so they will almost certainly link up with other Turkish student societies. And then we also have ones that are a little bit more fun, so sports, for example, and also things like the Harry Potter Society, where you run around a field on a broomstick, which again is a little bit silly. You might fall off the broomstick, but it will help you to make friends.
That's really good. Well, I think that's it, pretty much. And let's move on to the next topic: student life in the UK. What would you like to say?
Okay, so as I've mentioned before, many students do work part-time, and we have a career service that will help you to find those jobs. Now, students ask what kind of work that is. It does have to be flexible to fit around your studies, so it's probably going to be bar work, waitressing, something like that. But many students do that to help support them in their studies.
There are some jobs available on campuses, on campus, as far as I know, or shops or coffee shops, you know, some restaurants as well. There's a variety of work available, yes, you're right. So it depends on what you are interested in, what you're able to find. If you have a specific interest area, perhaps if you, I don't know, maybe you're into sports coaching, for example, you may have more opportunities open to you. But the university also, in fact all UK universities, find that students are very valuable
valuable as potential employees, because they help us with things like marketing and recruitment. So when we do open days for Birmingham, we have a very large campus, and I don't have the time to walk around the campus with every single student that we have, so we employ our student ambassadors to show our potential students around campus, and that's really nice because we find that potential students want to talk to our current students as well, so
yes,
it's very, very helpful for us. So there is plenty of employment opportunity within the university as well.
One thing to add, actually, working right is not supporting your education, or you don't expect that to support your education or living costs. It's just your additional pocket money that you can maybe use for transport or something else. At the end of the day, you earn £5 to £7 per hour. So maybe a bit higher. It's been a long time. I haven't,
it changes every year.
I lived in the UK, but yes. So good to hear that. I mean, it's more than that. So, but still, it will not, help to cover your study expenses, tuition fees. Exactly.
Bear in mind, a very important part of student life as well is the fact that based in the UK. You will have the opportunity for cheap travel, so during your weekends you might want to visit other UK cities, and so if you're working part-time it gives you a little bit of funds to be able to do that. It's a really valuable opportunity to be able to travel around Europe, around the UK in particular. Many of our students do that. They post all over Facebook where they've been, which is really interesting. Also student societies often organise lots of social events, so I've seen that many of our student societies may host quizzes at other universities, so that's quite common. So student life in the UK, we've mentioned a little bit about study. Your study experience may be a little bit different to your previous teaching methods. It's very flexible in the UK. You're giving a lot of responsibility and also a lot of freedom on university programmes. So what you get out of university depends very much on what you put into university. The more effort that you put into making friends, into doing your studies, the more you will get out of the university study. So you will need to take responsibility for your studies, make sure that you adhere to assignment deadlines. You will also have lots of different types of lessons, and the amount of hours that you are in class will very much depend on the programme that you're studying. So if you're studying something like politics or international relations or history, you may actually be in class for much fewer hours than you thought. You will have almost certainly a 1-hour lecture for each of your modules every week. Then you will have some breakout sessions in much smaller groups, in workshops and seminars. If you are doing a laboratory-based course or a science-based course, you will also have lab time, and that means you'll be doing more hours than if you're on a purely class-based course. If you're doing one of the more intensive programmes that has a lot of placement practice, so things like physio, things like medicine, veterinary science, then you will almost certainly be in class for very many hours during the week. That's very intensive indeed. Also, many of the courses will offer additional opportunities to students. So in the third year, it is quite common for universities to offer students either an internship, and that will be a paid work placement for a whole year, or study abroad. And UK universities have links all over the world. So if you speak another language, so for example, if you speak German, if you speak French, you may choose to go to one of those countries where you can study in that language. If you want to continue to study in English, we have partners all over the world that teach in English. So for Birmingham, we have many partners in Australia, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Singapore, the USA, Canada, and also many of our European partners also teach in English, so in Germany and in the Netherlands, for example.
Can I add something here? Another different thing about the UK education is as you mentioned earlier, industry and universities have good links, which means actually universities offer curriculum according to business needs. So they talk, and then universities respond and offer something relevant you find in the real life. When you graduate you have the skills. They make sure that you have the skills, then you can move on to your career straight away.
And many university programs are also professionally accredited. So if you are interested perhaps in working in the UK or working in an international environment, you may want to check out the professional accreditation for that course. So physiotherapy, for example, Birmingham, as is our programme, is professionally accredited and also offers the minimum required hours for, I think, pretty much any country in the world for international accreditation to practice as a physiotherapist. Some of the engineering programmes may also be accredited by UK professional bodies, and for example our accounting and finance programme, that's also recognised by not just the UK accounting bodies but also one of the Australian accounting bodies as well.
That's great. Yeah. Anything else to add? Will you carry on?
Let me just work out what I wanted to say. So I was talking about things like travelling around the UK in your spare time. So travel's quite cheap and easy if you plan in advance. You can book your train tickets in advance, can't you? You get very good discounts. Airplane fares can be quite cheap as well, can't they, if you plan in advance. So, and the Student Union during Welcome Week will help you to work out how to get those discounts.
I used National Express several times when I was in the UK. Went to Amsterdam and Paris, and from London, yes, I just paid £8 or something.
Wow.
It was so cheap, and the National Express is still, very cheap, as far as I know.
It is.
If you buy in advance, brilliant, know.
And we now have Megabus as well, which is even cheaper, I think.
That's good.
So,
So plenty of choices and alternative, routes and channels like buses or planes, very cheap.
Accommodation on campus as well, so you'll be thinking that you will probably be staying in halls of residence in your first year as an undergraduate. Most of our international students will choose to stay on campus, and I think that's quite common across the UK. When you first arrive in the UK, you won't necessarily know any other students or anyone else from your country or anyone in the UK, so it's much easier to stay in university accommodation. All universities then expect that students actually prefer to move out in their second and third year. So you'll make friends in your halls of residence, and then you'll choose to perhaps share a rented house in your second and third year with the friends that you've made. That can be a little bit cheaper than staying in halls of residence. You need to compare the costs, because not everything is included that is included in halls of residence, so it looks a lot cheaper at first, but then you have to remember that you also have to pay for things like Wi-Fi and heating and water, but it can be a more cost-effective way of living off campus. And for example, in Birmingham there are a huge number of houses that are so close to campus, some of them are even closer than university accommodation, so you'd even have less time to walk to your classes.
One thing to remember, the time is getting shorter and shorter. If you want to study in the this coming academic year, accommodation is limited in London, big cities. So you have to book something or find something as early as possible. And some universities in London don't have halls of residence, that kind of arrangement. So you have to find a place, flats or share or lodgings, that kind of accommodation. So make your arrangements as early as possible. There are a few actually websites that we recommend. Host UK is one of them. Accommodation for Students, and UK GISA. It's written in Turkish, UK GISA. Read as UK CISA. This, if you type on Google, you'll find UK CISA gives quite good information about living in the UK, basically. So type these, websites and see, what you have.
We can maybe put those links actually down below the Facebook page, actually,
Yes.
to link to that.
Yeah.
Yes, so one thing I did want to add as well is many UK universities will guarantee accommodation for overseas students. So we appreciate that you're travelling a long way, you're away from home and you don't have necessarily contacts in the UK. For Birmingham, for example, if you have made us your firm choice, if you've applied for your accommodation by the 31st of July, we guarantee a place in university accommodation. And I'm sure that's the same for many others. London may be a little different, but I don't deal with London, so you would have to contact those universities.
Yes, definitely.
Directly. They would be able to advise.
Yes. If you have any questions about entry requirements or accommodation, anything specific to universities, particular university, get in touch with them. They have international offices and staff allocated for each country. They will respond to your questions.
Yes, and don't feel scared. Because
they are human.
They're human, and actually you may well find that they may even be Turkish, because some universities do occasionally have
that's right.
Turkish members of staff. Yes,
that's right. So I think we covered everything at the moment. We have few questions. I received a request actually summarizing things in Turkish just briefly. As mentioned earlier, this video will be subtitled, or this show will be subtitled and advertised on our website and also Facebook. So you'll read it in Turkish as well. Just to summarize what we've been talking about in Turkish briefly, and then we'll go back to questions and and answer them if we can. If you have any questions, please ask them through Facebook. Şimdi bugün biz yayınımızda Birleşik Krallık'ta eğitimden bahsettik. Böyle bir talep geldi. O yüzden Türkçe'ye dönüyorum. Yayınımız İngilizceydi. Ama yayınımız bittikten sonra Türkçe'ye çevrilecek altyazıyla birlikte web sitemizde ve Facebook sayfamızda yayınlanacak. Bugün ne konuştuğumuzu en azından özetlemek isterim ki ilginizi çekiyorsa yayınımızı bekler, yani Türkçe altyazılı olarak yayınımızı bekler, oradan seyredersiniz. Bugün biz UCAS başvurularıyla ilgili konuştuk. Özellikle lisans eğitimi almak isteyen öğrenciler önümüzdeki Eylül-Ekim itibariyle eğitim almak isteyen öğrencilerin hala bir şansı olduğundan bahsettik. O da 30 Haziran. Yani 20 gün kadar bir süremiz var. Eğer bu tarihi kaçıran öğrenciler olursa sonrasında tekrar sistem açılıyor. Clearing dediğimiz bir periyot var. Orada başvuru yapabiliyorlar ama sadece bir başvuru hakları var ve önce üniversiteyle görüşmeleri gerekiyor. Kabul alıyorlarsa, olumlu bakıyorlarsa daha sonrasında üniversite adayı UCAS sayfasına yönlendiriyor ve oradan başvurusunu yapıyor. İşte gerekli olan bazı başvuru kriterleri var. Neden konuştuk? Biz bir motivasyon mektubunun yazılması gerektiğinden, burada ne gibi özellikleri arıyoruz, üniversiteler neye bakıyor, neler önemli, onlardan bahsettik. Tek tek üstünden geçmek birazcık zaman alacak ama yayınımızı altyazılı olarak izlerseniz öğrenebilirsiniz. Eğer öğrenciler başvurularını yapmış, tekliflerini almışsa son şansları, yani şansları yarın itibariyle bitiyor, 7 Haziran itibariyle. Bir an önce karar vermeniz gerekiyor. Yani istediğiniz üniversitede okumak istiyor musunuz, istemiyor musunuz? Kabul etmeniz gerekiyor ve geri kalanını da reject etmeniz, yani teklifi reddetmeniz gerekiyor. Eğer siz bunu yapmazsanız üniversiteler tek tek bütün başvurularını iptal edecekler ve hiçbir şansınız kalmayacak. Bundan bahsettik. Onun dışında biz bugün üniversiteler, öğrencilerde, Birleşik Krallık'taki üniversiteler, öğrencilerde neler arıyorlar, hangi özellikleri arıyorlar, bunlardan bahsettik. Çok güzel Alexa anlattı bunları. Daha sonra üniversitenin ilk haftasında üniversiteye gittiniz, başladınız. İlk haftasında sizi nasıl bir süreç bekliyor? Oryantasyon nasıl? Alışma süreci nasıl? Bunlardan bahsettik. Bir de Birleşik Krallık'ta öğrenci yaşamından bahsettik. Çok güzel, yine burada Alexa bize bilgiler verdi. Şimdi biz sorulara geçelim. Sonrasında yaklaşık olarak şöyle bir 10-15 dakika süremiz var. Ondan sonra da yayını bitiriyor olacağız. Şimdi burada görüyorum ben nasıl başvuru yapmak gerekiyor, şartlar nedir? Hem lisan öğrenmek hem üniversite okumak, ayrıca yüksek lisans yapmak için neler isteniyor diye bir soru geldi. Let me summarize the question. We have a question here. What are the entry requirements for English, for university education or undergraduate education and postgraduate education? How much does it cost? These are the questions. We talk about university applications, undergraduate applications.
Yeah.
If we talk about postgraduate education, we can say they still have time, but most of the maybe universities, popular universities or programs have fields filled in. So you have to, you might have very limited choices. We always say, not only this time, but throughout the year, the earliest the better. This is, true for undergraduate programs and postgraduate programs.
Yes.
Always the earliest the better. So you still have chance to apply for postgraduate programs. Basically, you need your transcripts if you are still studying, your diploma if you graduated, your level of, a document showing your English level.
English level, yeah.
Academic references,
yes.
Usually two academic references, yes, 2 academic references, and then one more thing, motivation letter. More or less, the motivation is similar. We talk about that, so it applies to postgraduate study. The only thing is, you make your applications individually. There is no central. There is actually UCAS pass.
A little bit, yeah.
Yes,
but
it's limited.
Very limited.
Limited.
Yes.
So it's advised that you apply universities individually and directly, which means your personal statement has to be changed, adopted.
And in which case, in your personal statement, you should be referencing for postgraduate that you are applying to the University of Birmingham or Nottingham or Manchester, but make sure you get the right one when you're making your application, because you'd be surprised. Many times I've seen, I really want to apply to the University of Manchester because, and it doesn't always go down very well with the admissions tutor.
Actually, this applies to job applications as well.
Yeah.
If you make lots of job applications, make sure that you change your personal statements. It's very bad, how to say, bad impression.
Yes.
Costs. Well, basically, this is very general, very broad, information. It starts from like £15,000 and reaches to £25,000 per year. But of course, it's depending on the subject that you choose, the laboratory work you have and materials. The cost changes basically.
It does. I would say, looking back at the question, and the person has asked things like level of English and entry requirements. They vary very much by subject area, by level, and also by the university you're applying to as well. So we all have slightly different entry requirements. My advice would be to go onto that university's website, and many universities will have a country page specific for Turkey.
That's a really good tip.
And they usually will give their entry requirements, and then they will give a link through to their English level requirements, which quite often will vary by subject. So to give examples, for Birmingham, which will be similar but different for other universities, IELTS 6 generally for science and engineering programs, 6.5 for most of our programs, so things like social sciences, business, arts and humanities, and IELTS 7 for law and medicine. So they do vary very much by subject, But again, I know with talking through to some other Russell Group universities, they do vary a little bit as well, so we're not all exactly the same. So you really must go and check with that university.
Another, actually, adding on to the costs or tuition fees, there is also a living cost that you need to consider. You need to budget around 10,000 to 15,000 per year. It really depends on the city that you will live in, basically, and your lifestyle, of course. One of the questions is about working while studying. We covered that topic. So you have 20 hours hour allowance per week. Another question is about if we are sending students students to the UK to study PhD. In general, as British Council, let's generalize this answer. We don't place students. What we do is we arrange or organize some activities that we can bring together students and institutions. And it's good to mention our next Study UK Days. It's type of exhibition will be on the 3rd and 4th of November. If we have any students considering to apply for the next academic year, please follow the details on our social media and British Council website.
And just to mention something about applying for a PhD in the UK, it's generally a little bit different to applying for a master's programme or an undergraduate programme. So generally what you will do is, first of all, you'll actually prepare your research proposal, and then you'll contact that university first. So you'll find a member of staff at that university that has a similar research area to what you're looking to research into. Our PhD programmes tend to be mainly research based, so not classroom based. They're not really taught PhD programmes, and so you'll be expected to very much independently go off and find somebody who may be prepared to supervise you, and then at the end of that process you then make your formal application on the website for the programme. That's really just the formal process at the end.
Well, these are the questions. I might have missed some of the questions. I'm really sorry, but I'll be happy to, or will be happy to answer them after the session online on Facebook. So let's wrap up and, finish the live show. So don't forget to apply if you are interested in studying in the UK at undergraduate level. Don't forget to apply until the 30th of June. So you have around 20 days. And if you are considering to study in the UK in the next academic year, which is, it's very hard to think of, 2009, 19 and 20. You please follow us on social media and come to our events. We'll be organizing similar events in the coming months. So don't forget about the Study UK Days. Anything you would like to add, Alexa?
Yes, I would just like to mention that, as you mentioned, Study UK Days, there's a number of events that the British Council organise throughout the year, and many UK universities do come to British Council events, so you'll have the opportunity to meet a group of us if you come and meet us at the exhibition. Yes,
and Alexa, I forgot to thank you at the beginning, but thank you for coming and joining us today. You came all the way from the UK just for this show. Much appreciated. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.